Stagflation is finally here, and this $120 oil crash is about to make half these sailboats completely worthless. Look at the pump, then look at your dockage fees. The math of boat ownership just stopped working for the masses. We are entering the greatest great boat purge in human history. While the crowds are panicking and selling their plastic yachts for pennies on the dollar, a hidden shift is happening in the shadows of the marina. Most people are watching their net worth sink into the bilge, but the sovereign sailor knows the truth. Some boats are actually becoming more valuable as the world burns. There is a specific list of survivor hulls that are immune to this crash, and another list of status buys that will be literal scrap by next summer. The market is not just dipping, it is being re-engineered by force. Do you own a vessel that can weather the 2026 economic storm? Or are you sitting on a structural time bomb that just got marked for extinction? The price at the pump does not lie. Crude oil hitting $120 a barrel is not a typo. It is the new reality. Here is the arithmetic that is about to break the back of the average boat owner. The typical 30-foot production boat burns through a modest amount of fuel, sure. At half a gallon per hour, that is 100 gallons burned every season. Multiply that by $12 per gallon at the pump, and you are staring at a $1,200 annual fuel bill just to keep your floating condo moving. But if you are running one of those so-called survivor hulls that actually gets used, or if you are burning close to a gallon an hour, sometimes more, that is 180 gallons minimum. At $12 a gallon, you are writing a $2,160 check every year just for diesel. You want to cruise the coast, that is the price of a used pickup truck gone in a single season. Multiply that by 3 years of coastal runs, there is no escape hatch. Forget what the brokers told you about low operating costs. At $12 a gallon, the fuel spend alone is enough to turn a $75,000 boat into a negative equity trap in less than 5 years. These are not luxury yacht numbers. This is the basic math for the middle-class sailor who thought a boat was a ticket to freedom, not a financial death spiral. The fuel line is now an umbilical cord to your savings account. Skip the engine and you will spend more on sailcloth repairs, but most owners cannot avoid motoring for half their hours, for harbor entrances, no wind days, tidal runs. There is no escape hatch. Forget what the brokers told you about low operating costs. At $120 a gallon, the fuel spend alone is enough to turn a $75,000 boat into a negative equity trap in less than 5 years. For the heavy classics, it is even faster. The only way out is to run the numbers cold and ask yourself how many years you can keep feeding this beast before it eats your retirement whole. Marina fees are the silent killer that most boat owners never see coming. Fuel gets all the headlines, but dockage is the slow bleed, steady, relentless, and impossible to outrun. In 2026, slip rates did not just tick up, they leapt. Industry surveys show $2 to $3 per foot per month as the new baseline. That is $900 to keep a 30-foot boat tied to a dock for a single season. And that is before you even think about insurance, pump outs, or the so-called shore power discount that does not come close to offsetting the spike in utility costs. Empty slips do not mean empty bills. Marinas have fixed costs, security, maintenance, water taxes that do not go away just because half the berths are vacant. Occupancy has dropped 10 to 15% since the oil spike, but the invoices keep rolling in. Owners who thought they could wait out the storm by sitting tight are learning what vampire dockage really means. The marina keeps draining your wallet, even if your boat never leaves the slip. An archival quote from a California marina manager says it best. "We cannot lower fees just because boats are not moving. Somebody pays, if not the owner, then the bank that repossesses it. Do not kid yourself that policy relief is coming. The federal government tossed out a 5% excise tax cut on marine diesel, but that is pennies compared to the $600 a month in new dockage costs. The real story is that marinas are quietly shifting risk onto owners, locking them into contracts that outlast the value of the boat itself. Even in a down market, marina operators know they will get paid, either by desperate owners clinging to hope or by lenders forced to cover the losses when negative equity triggers a wave of repossessions. That is the extinction event nobody wants to talk about. The fuel bill is a bonfire, but it is the marina fee squeeze that turns a floating dream into a financial corpse. The only way out is to own a boat that someone else actually wants to buy, or be ready to walk away before the dockmaster gets your keys. A boat's true value is not written on a broker's listing, it is hiding in the hull, the deck, and the guts of the electrical system. Do you want to know what makes half these sailboats unsellable the minute money gets tight? Start with the stuff you cannot see. I have lost count of the number of post-2005 production hulls I have drilled into and pulled out a plug that is wetter than a sponge. Balsa or foam core sandwiched between thin glass, sold as innovation, is just a ticking time bomb for core rot. One hairline crack, a missed bedding job on a stanchion, and water starts its slow invasion. Give it 5 years, and you are looking at delamination so wide you can tap test the deck and hear it ring, hollow from the cockpit to the bow. Surveyors now carry moisture meters like doctors carry stethoscopes. I have seen readings in the high 20s, anything over 15% is a red flag. Insurance companies know the drill. A BYC bulletins from 2015 and 2022 make it plain, once moisture gets into bonded core construction, the repair bill starts at $40,000 and only goes up. Most owners do not have that cash sitting in a drawer, and the insurers are getting wise. They are hiking deductibles, capping payouts, or just walking away from anything with a history of core intrusion. The claims spike after 2015 was not an accident. It was the result of a decade of builders shaving weight and cost, betting owners would not notice until the warranty expired. But it is not just the hull. The electronics are another Achilles heel. Today's production boats are rolling circuit boards, integrated autopilots, touchscreen navigation, digital switching systems that need a climate-controlled garage, not a saltwater slip. Let them sit idle for a season because you cannot afford fuel, and you will come back to find half the gear dead from corrosion or software rot. Replacing a chart plotter or a failed autopilot module is another $5,000 to $8,000. And good luck finding a tech who will work on a 15-year-old Raymarine system when the new models are not even backward compatible. I have watched the salvage yards fill up with cruisers from the 2010s that look shiny in the listing photos but are worthless once a surveyor starts drilling. Auction houses list core rot discovered during post-sale survey as a line item now. The reality is, if your boat was built after 2005, you are rolling the dice every time you skip a survey or ignore a soft spot. And with insurers tightening standards and repair costs blowing past $40,000, a minor moisture problem can turn your floating condo into a total loss overnight. That is the structural reality the glossy brochures never mention. And it is the reason banks are about to start treating these boats like radioactive waste. Lenders aren't in the business of hope. When the numbers turn, they do not call a family meeting, they send out a policy memo. March 2026, the banks moved fast. The new rule was no more 70% loans on production boats, no more 60% on the old classics. Now it's 65% for anything built after 2005 and 55% for the heavy iron vaults. If you bought a $200,000 cruiser on a fat loan, you just watched your equity vanish like a puff of exhaust over the transom. Let's put a face on this. Call him Owner X. He bought a 2015 Beneteau for $200,000, put $60,000 down, and financed the rest. For years, he made the payments, paid for slip fees, and kept up with the maintenance. Then the oil spike hit. Suddenly, his annual fuel and dockage bills ballooned to $18,000. Buyers dried up. The resale market froze. 6 months later, the bank's loan-to-value squeeze forced a reappraisal. The boat, once worth $200,000, now books for $95,000. He still owes $120,000. Negative equity by $25,000, and that's if he can even find a buyer. There is no negotiating with the repo man. Lenders, facing a wave of defaults, Dump these boats at auction. The numbers are ugly. In the first quarter after the shock, the average production cruiser at salvage auction fetched $50,000, barely a quarter of the original loan. The rest are written off. The owner gets a 1099-C for the forgiven debt, a tax hit, and a wrecked credit score. The boat itself is stripped for parts, electronics are yanked, and hulls are stacked like cordwood behind the fence. This is the Boat to Albatross pipeline. It starts with a glossy brochure, runs through 5 years of payments, and ends at a salvage yard. The moment fuel and marina fees outpace the boat's market value, the countdown begins. Lenders walk away from anything with core rot, water intrusion, or an engine overdue for a $15,000 overhaul. Auction houses do not care about your memories or your logbook, they care about the hammer price. The hard reality is once the bank tightens the loan to value screws, you're not an owner, you are a liability manager. The only survivors are those who bought with cash, or those in iron vault hulls that still attract real offers when the panic selling starts. Everyone else is just waiting for the repo letter to arrive. History has a nasty habit of repeating itself, especially when it comes to oil and the price of freedom on the water. In 1973, the OPEC embargo blindsided America. Oil prices didn't just rise, they quadrupled in a matter of months. The sticker shock was everywhere. Gas lines around the block, Sunday cruising bans, and a 30% plunge in new boat production almost overnight. Cruising World and Yachting Magazine editorials from that winter read like warnings from the future, writers begging readers to think smaller, lighter, more efficient. The message was blunt: if you couldn't afford to fill your tank, your boat was going nowhere. The Energy Information Administration's records showed diesel prices leaping from 38 cents to 78 cents a gallon in a single season, a 105% jump. Marinas emptied out. Slip rentals dropped by a third as owners mothballed their boats, waiting for relief that never came. The market pivoted fast. Heavy displacement, fuel-hungry cruisers were suddenly a liability, while compact, thrifty hulls became the only game in town. Lenders got skittish, slashing loan-to-value ratios and demanding 6 months of fuel reserves just to write a note. The echoes are loud in 2026. What happened in 1973 wasn't just a blip, it was a dress rehearsal for the extinction event now crashing down on anyone who thought a production boat was a safe bet. If you want to know how quickly a floating dream turns into a financial corpse, you don't have to look far. The numbers and the editorials from half a century ago are staring us in the face, and this time the fuel bill is even bigger and the margin for error is gone. Step onto a 1970s cruiser and it is the smell that stays with you: old teak, diesel oil, a hint of salt. These boats weren't built for flash, they were built to last. Run your hand along the hull of a West Sail 42 and you'll feel solid glass, an inch thick, no foam, no balsa, just laminate that shrugs off decades of weather. Surveyors call them iron vaults for a reason. The deck does not flex and the core is not hiding rot. Pull a plug from the hull and you will see dry, tight fibers. No spongy surprises. Down below, a Perkins 4108 or old Yanmar clatters awake. No computers, just a mechanical fuel pump and a glow plug. Owners bleed the lines with a screwdriver, not a laptop. When the fuel's dirty or the weather turns, these engines keep running. That's what sets a survivor apart, built to outlast the storm, not just to look good at the dock. Owners talk about these boats like family. The bilge smells of oil, teak, and canvas. Simple systems, manual windlass, bronze through hulls, wiring you can trace, mean nothing is hidden, nothing waiting to fail when you need it most. If you want to survive the $120 oil world, you need a boat that acts like a vault, not a fashion statement. Here is the buy list: no fluff, no status games, just the models that have already proven they can take a punch and still fetch cash when everyone else is begging for a buyer. Start with the West Sail 42. This is the original iron vault. It has a solid fiberglass hull, a full keel, no balsa or foam to rot, and a Perkins 4108 diesel that could run on salad oil if you had to. You get hand-laid laminate over an inch thick in places, bronze through hulls, and a rig you can fix with hand tools, not a laptop. These boats hold over 85% of their value even when the market is in free fall. Next, the Valiant 38. Built in the late 1970s and early 1980s, it is the definition of overbuilt, with a thick hull, encapsulated ballast, a mechanical diesel, and a deck layout that does not need a PhD to service. Resale data from 2026 shows Valiant 38s dropping just 10% when production boats are losing half their sticker price. Then there is the Fuji 34, Japanese engineering, a trawler-style hull, and a reputation for shrugging off decades of neglect. Owners report fewer than 2 major repairs per decade, and the hulls are as dry today as they were in the Carter administration. Here is your survivor checklist. Solid fiberglass construction, full-length keel, mechanical diesel with no proprietary electronics, non-proprietary rigging, and systems you can trace end to end. If the surveyor cannot find the core, that is a good sign. If the engine starts with a screwdriver and not a software patch, you are in business. Ignore the brokers pushing innovation and modern comfort. Those are code words for planned obsolescence. Every dollar you do not spend on a touchscreen or a lightweight hull is a dollar that stays in your pocket when the repo man comes knocking. The Survivor. Hulls, Westsail 42, Valiant 38, and Fuji 34 are the last boats standing when the vampire dockage comes for everyone else. The clock is ticking. If you own a production boat built after 2005, you have 90 days, maybe less, before the next wave of negative equity hits and the repossession letters start flying. Here is the unvarnished checklist. First, audit your position like a lender would. Pull the latest survey. Yes, that means paying $900 for a fresh set of moisture readings and a written hull report. If your survey flags core rot or electrical gremlins, assume the market will knock off at least 20% from any broker's asking price. Next, call 2 brokers and get a real comparable quote. Not the fantasy number from last spring, but what they will list it for today. If their numbers are more than 15% apart, you are in a falling market. Now check your loan-to-value ratio. If you owe more than 65% of what the broker says you can get, you are already on thin ice. For the old classics, that threshold is 55%. Lenders are not bluffing. After March, the average time to close a forced sale is down to 90 days, and auction houses are booking slots months in advance. If you are above water, you have a window to refinance. Most banks are still honoring fixed-rate refinances for borrowers with loan-to-value under 60%, but only until the next rate reset. Miss that window, and you are stuck with variable rates that can jump 2 percentage points overnight. If you are sitting on a status buy, the only leverage you have is speed. List now, price to move, and be ready to take a hit. The longer you wait, the more you will bleed in dockage and insurance. If your hull is a survivor, get it surveyed, documented, and insured at replacement value. Cash buyers are circling the few iron vaults left. The rest of the herd is headed for the auction yard. This is triage, not therapy. Audit, decide, and act, because in a $120 oil world, hesitation is just another word for liquidation. Right now, the numbers don't lie. Marina fees and $120 for fuel have turned half the waterfront into a liquidation yard, not a playground. The age of the disposable yacht is ending in red ink. Only the iron vault hulls survive when the status buys rot. In this new world, value is not glossy, it is built, and it is rare. The purge is underway. Don't let your future become another seized slip. Let us hear your strategy below.